Hey everybody, welcome back. We are reading Managing Oneself by Peter F. Drucker, and we are getting into the next part of the book called The Second Half of Your Life. This will be the last and final installment for the series, Managing Oneself. I got a lot out of this book, you guys, and I hope that you did too, if you've been reading it or if you've just been following the series. I appreciate you guys taking the time to watch me, and I'm looking forward to just engaging with you guys in the comments. But without further ado, we'll go ahead and get into this part of the book. We'll discuss it at the end, and we will sum up the video. The second half of your life. When work for most people meant manual labor, there was no need to worry about the second half of your life. You simply kept on doing what you had always done. And if you were lucky enough to survive 40 years of hard work in the mill or on the railroad, you were quite happy to spend the rest of your life doing nothing. Today, however, most work is knowledge work. And knowledge workers are not finished after 40 years on the job. They are merely bored. We hear a great deal of talk about the midlife crisis of the executive. It is mostly boredom. At 45, most executives have reached the peak of their business careers, and they know it. After 20 years of doing very much the same kind of work, they are very good at their jobs. But they are not learning or contributing or deriving challenge and satisfaction from the job. And yet they are still likely to face another 20, if not 25 years of work. That is why managing oneself increasingly leads one to begin a second career. There are 3 ways to develop a second career. The first is actually to start one. Often this takes nothing more than moving from one kind of organization to another. The divisional controller is a large corporation, for instance, becomes the controller of a medium-sized hospital. But there are also growing numbers of people who move into different lines of work altogether. The business executive or government official who enters the ministry at 45, for instance, or the mid-level manager who leaves corporate life after 20 years to attend law school and become a small-town attorney. We will see many more second careers undertaken by people who have achieved modest success in their first jobs. Such people have substantial skills, and they know how to work. They need a community. The house is empty with the children gone, and they need income as well. But above all, they need challenge. The second way to prepare for the second half of your life is to develop a parallel career. Many people who are very successful in their first careers stay in the work they have been doing, either on a full-time or part-time or consulting basis. But in addition, they create a parallel job, usually in a nonprofit organization, that takes another 10 hours of work a week. They might take over the administration of their church, for instance, or the presidency of the local Girl Scouts Council. They might run the battered women's shelter, work as a children's librarian for the local public library, sit on the school board, and so on. Finally, there are the social entrepreneurs. These are usually people who have been very successful in their first careers. They love their work, but it no longer challenges them. In many cases, they keep on doing what they have been doing all along, but spend less and less of their time on it. They also start another activity, usually a nonprofit. My friend Bob Buford, for example, built a very successful television company that he still runs. But he has also founded and built a successful nonprofit organization that works with Protestant churches. And he is building another to teach social entrepreneurs how to manage their own nonprofit ventures while still running their original businesses. People who manage the second half of their lives may always be a minority. The majority may retire on the job and count the years until their actual retirement. But it is this minority, the men and women who see a long working life expectancy as an opportunity both for themselves and for society, who will become leaders and models. There's no one prerequisite for managing the second half of your life. You must begin long before you enter it. When it first became clear 30 years ago that working life expectancies were lengthening very fast, many observers, including myself, believed that retired people who would increasingly become volunteers for nonprofit institutions. That has not happened. If one does not begin to volunteer before one is 40 or so, one will not volunteer once past 60. Similarly, all the social entrepreneurs I know began to work in their chosen second enterprise long before they reached their peak in their original business. Consider the example of a successful lawyer, the legal counsel to a large corporation, who has started a venture to establish model schools in his state. He began to do volunteer legal work for the schools when he was around 35. He was elected to the school board at age 40. At age 50, when he had amassed a fortune, he started his own enterprise to build and to run model schools. He is, however, still working nearly full-time as the lead counsel in the company he helped found as a young lawyer. There's no reason to develop a second major interest and to develop it early. There is another reason to develop a second major interest and to develop it early. No one can expect to live very long without experiencing a serious setback in his or her life or work. There is the competent engineer who is passed over from promotion at age 45. There is the competent college professor who realizes at age 42 that she will never get a professorship at a big university, even though she may be fully qualified for it. There are tragedies in one's family life, the breakup of one's marriage, or the loss of a child. At such times, a second major interest, not just a hobby, may make all the difference. The engineer, for example, now knows that he has not been very successful in his job, but in his outside activity, as church treasurer, for example, he is a success. One's family may break up, but in that outside activity, there's still a community. In a society in which success has become so terribly important, having options will become increasingly vital. Historically, there was no such thing as success. The overwhelming majority of people did not expect anything but to stay in their proper station. As an old English prayer has it. The only mobility was downward mobility. In a knowledge society, however, we expect everyone to be a success. This is clearly an impossibility. For a great many people, there is at best an absence of failure. Wherever there is success, there has to be failure. And then it is vitally important for the individual, and equally for the individual's family, to have an area in which he or she can contribute, make a difference, and be somebody. That means finding a second area, whether in a second career, a parallel career, or a social venture, that offers an opportunity for being a leader, for being respected, for being a success. The challenges of managing oneself may seem obvious, if not elementary, and the answers may seem self-evident to the point of appearing naive. But managing oneself requires new and unprecedented things from the individual, and especially from the knowledge worker. In effect, managing oneself demands that each knowledge worker think and behave like a chief executive officer. Further, the shift from manual workers who do as they are told to knowledge workers who have to manage themselves profoundly challenges social structure. Every existing society, even the most individualistic one, takes two things for granted, if only subconsciously: that organizations outlive workers, and that most people stay put. But today, the opposite is true. Knowledge workers outlive organizations, and they are mobile. The need to manage oneself is therefore creating a revolution in human affairs. All right, you guys, so a couple things that I got out of this section and this last part of the book. So basically it pays to have a second interest, a second venture, so to speak, that you could be working on. We all have setbacks in life, whether that's a setback with your family, like the book described, the death of a child, divorce, maybe the death of a family member, you lose your mom or dad. I mean, there's a wide range of scenarios. And those setbacks, depending on how bad you really want what you're going after in life, those setbacks will determine what your future outcome will be and basically what your future is going to be. So no matter how many times you get set back, if you keep pushing forward, I believe with that kind of determination and working towards what you really want in this life, you'll get it. And it just comes back to how you look at these setbacks. Do you see them as, sometimes setbacks are actually not setbacks. It's the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. It's a new beginning, if you will. Or sometimes you need to just take a break. Sometimes you need to sit back and reflect and see where your life is actually going. And then make a plan, put it together, execute on it, and go forward. The other thing that I got out of this too was that it pays to have a community. Something that, like the second venture could be, it could be involved in a community of people or in your own community. Say, you live in a small farm town. You're, like it said in the book, like this executive of 20 years, 40 years or so decided to quit his job, go back to law school, and become a small town attorney. Beautiful example like that. And he's able to be this valuable piece in his small community, his small society, if you will. Because that's what he saw his future as, and that's what he really wanted to do. So let's go ahead and talk about this more in the comments down below, you guys. Let me know your guys' thoughts on the second half of your life. How it will be, say, after you leave a company of 20 years, and what you're going to do into your 40s, 50s, and 60s. What you want to do, what do you want to continue to be doing after your main job or after climbing the corporate ladder is officially over? What are you doing on the side, or what have you been doing on the side or doing in society that you feel is really attributing and what's the word I'm looking for? And is significant to putting something back into the community that you think is important. But yeah, let me know. Let's talk about it in the comments. And that will be it for this series on Managing Oneself by Peter F. Drucker, you guys. Thanks for joining me. The last thing I wanted to read before we end the video is about the author. Peter F. Drucker was a writer, teacher, and consultant. His 34 books have been published in more than 70 languages. He founded the Peter F. Drucker Foundation for Nonprofit Management and counseled 13 governments, public service institutions, and major corporations. All right, you guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you guys enjoyed this series as much as I did. And if you guys are just finding me, please subscribe. That helps me out more than anything. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.